All right. What's going on, everybody? It is Monday. It's Mike and Wendy. You're in the Marriage Shop. Welcome.
Yes, we are back once again. Glad you guys could join us. I see a few of you dropped in pretty early. So, Alprentice Smith, Jay Sutton, Kenyelle Norman, I'm glad we
What's
finally
up?
get to see you and you see us. Brenda Dunn, what a surprise. Thank you for dropping in
Wow.
to the Marriage Shop tonight. I think I said Gerald Wilson already, but if
Yep.
I didn't, welcome. It's always great when you drop in with us. We're Mike and Wendy. This is the Marriage Shop. So, we're expecting a few new folks tonight. And if this is your first time, just let us know. Drop it in the chat. And we'll make sure we'll do our best to acknowledge that you're here. We're just thankful for everybody that takes a little time out of their schedule to spend some time with us on Monday nights. Hey, Lynn Lou Williams, love
What's
you,
up? What's
cuz.
up, cousin?
Yes, yes.
hmm
So, what did we talk about last week?
See, I don't know. That's not in the script tonight. What did we talk about last week?
Oh, last week we
We-
talked about gun ownership. Do
oh,
you
yeah.
agree? And so we were talking about agreeing or disagreeing on gun ownership. And that really just kind of, I guess, naturally helps us segue into agreeing or disagreeing on other things. But before we do, Jasmine McNeil, thank you for
What's
joining
up,
us.
Jazzy Boo?
And
What's
Monica
up?
Wilson Ferguson,
Hey.
welcome back. Always glad that you can join us. And hopefully, you guys are staying warm where you are in the Northeast and the
hmm
DMV. So we had the privilege of sharing on Saturday at Revivify. If you live locally, then you know Revivify is just an amazing church led by Jason Mitchum
Yep.
and his wife April. And we had an opportunity to share with their married couples on Saturday. And it was just a really blessed event. So we wanted to make sure we said thank you to them for inviting
Absolutely.
us
Yeah.
and allowing us to share and speak into marriages. Anything you want to say about that?
No, I think you said it all. It was just it's always great to be able to share with married couples because you walk into a room and everybody comes in with their thing, right? And depending on what day or what year, what week you walk into that room, that thing might be different. And so we try to just touch on some things that really, just like here, right, just apply to most people.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, somebody is going through whatever that thing is that you talk about, or whatever you have to share speaks to something that someone has going on. And so yeah, that's just the way it is. So it's always awesome. And Jason mentioned, that's my brother. We've done a lot of cool stuff together in this neighborhood, in this community.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's been awesome. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So if you're joining us for the first time, we're Mike and Wendy. This is the Marriage Shop, and we're here on Mondays at 7. If you think somebody else might benefit from what we're going to talk about tonight or something we've talked about before, just grab them, tag them, and bring them on in with you. So tonight we're talking about disagreeing. And I will say that we have a lot of experience in this area.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, a couple of people have shared with me that one of the things they enjoy watching the most is when you and I disagree.
What's wrong with you people?
Right here.
I mean, no offense. What's wrong with? I mean, yeah. I'm glad you enjoy that. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should charge admission because we just blow up. We'd be paid if we charge admission to disagreement. Because
Yeah. Well,
if I had a nickel for
well,
every
here,
time.
here's the thing.
hmm
You have two people coming from two different
Yep.
backgrounds, two different points of view,
hmm
trains of thought, whatever you want to call it, and you're coming together in marriage,
Yeah.
where quite honestly, daily you are required to share, compromise,
hmm
accept, sacrifice,
Yep.
forgive. I
All
mean,
that.
it really is a daily occurrence. And so it's inevitable that in marriage you will disagree.
Yeah. I mean, well, you say a daily occurrence. Yeah, it's a daily occurrence. Sometimes multiple times daily occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's inevitable. And if you saw the message on uh, the intro, the show, the title, whatever.
Yeah, the
If
description.
you disagree, you need to be in here tonight. And if you've never disagreed,
You need to be in
You
here
should have been in
tonight.
here first.
Yes.
Something going on. I don't know. But
I mean, some people say they never disagree, they
Mhm.
never fight, they never have arguments. We've heard that from people in the
Yeah.
past. We've heard that from people even recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it is a mindset or a way of being. But you
Mm-hmm.
have to both agree that that's how you're going to operate.
Yeah, yeah. But if you both agree that's how you're going to operate, I don't know. See, we were talking about earlier that I believe that to some degree disagreement is necessary. And some people might say, what? And perhaps you get caught up on the semantics of the word disagree.
Mm-hmm.
But, and we'll get more into it, but I believe that perhaps some disagreement is necessary sometimes. I mean, not all the time. Sometimes people can just be disagreeable, right? Just
Yes.
disagreeing right? Because I'm crabby, because it wasn't my idea, because whatever. Wait, you said yes, kind of. You're like,
I say yes
yes. You
because
said that with some.
some people, by their very nature, like it's not necessarily conflict, but they
Mhm.
like to debate. They like to challenge
Yeah.
whatever is being said or expressed or whatever, just for the sake of the challenge,
Mhm.
right? It's like they love to just kind of engage and go toe to toe,
Mhm.
just because it's just their nature. And then there's
Mhm.
some people who just like to avoid conflict altogether.
Yeah.
And so it is an interesting thing when those two people come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you know you'll find that people who kind of seek that debate, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to liven things up, I guess. Make things interesting. If you watch television shows, particularly talk, whether it be sports or
Yeah.
politics or whatever, there's always a dissenting view, like somebody who consistently is going to disagree. Newsflash: those people don't even always disagree. But it would be a very boring show if everybody's like, "Yeah, you're right, right? I know," and then it's over, right? And so
Yeah.
you have to for entertainment value, disagreements are good, right? However, at home,
Yeah. There's no entertainment
no
value.
entertainment. This is not, if you want to be Stephen A. Smith,
Oh no.
go somewhere and do that. But home's probably not the place. But anyway, I digress. I apologize. I'm on a tangent.
No,
But
no. I
what's up,
mean,
Brian McNeil?
I
I
kind
see
of
you.
brought up that point, and
Yeah.
so here's the thing: we disagree. We disagree probably daily. I wouldn't say necessarily multiple times a day, but at least every day there is something that comes up that we disagree about, and the
Mm-hmm.
way that we go into it and come out of it is different. Just based on our personalities, who
Yeah.
we are. Sometimes the disagreements can really just kind of create a wedge, and it can last longer than a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it can get just, I mean, it gets heavy. And then we're angry, and so many other things get pulled in. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's just quick. And
Mm-hmm.
so we do have some experience in this area.
Yeah. But
And
but we don't put ourselves up as the example in any way, shape, or form.
not in,
But
yeah. So common things that people disagree about in
mhm.
marriage. Some, we'll go from least severe to more severe. How about that?
Now,
So
and
what?
she's gonna run down a list, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
reason we're talking about disagreement in general tonight, I think,
Yeah.
is because there's some things that are pretty much universal that will help you to get through and around or to deal with disagreement, because we will often pick certain things and we'll make that the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, it is just a more broad thing, because I think that for me, whenever I've kind of got myself out of it, there's a similar pattern that emerges. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah,
So yeah,
of course I have a list. But yeah. So some common things. I mean, everything from what's for dinner. Every day there are couples all across the world who are in disagreement over what is going to be for dinner. If that is true, you can
you,
drop that.
you
Just
don't
drop
have
that in
to.
the
You
comments.
had to go and drop the "What's for dinner"
Is that a
question in there.
daily disagreement for you? But what's for dinner? It is something that people commonly have
Well,
discussions about and disagree about.
yeah. Well, the first issue for a lot of people is just the question itself: "What's for dinner?" It's like, well, I don't know. What do you want? So there's the coming to that place where you can agree, right? It's not even a disagreement yet. It's just like not agreement.
Yeah.
But then it's like, see here, but here's where, okay, listen, if you feel safe enough, you can co-sign in the chat, but I'm just going out there myself. It's okay if I'm by myself, fellas. It's cool. But here's the thing that's like, whoa, it's like, it's when there's kind of the, okay, what's for dinner? And you do the thing, right? You do the dance. And then you're like, okay, you know what? We eating chicken. Let's go. And it's like, no, the response is no, I don't want chicken. It's like, well, wait, a minute ago you didn't want anything. So now, oh, you don't want chicken now? Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Let it be this X, Y, and Z. It's like, nope. Yeah, I'm not feeling X, Y, and Z. Okay, you know what? Fine. It's on you then. You know what I mean? That's anyway.
That's kind of how that can go. So thanks, Jay Sutton. You're right. What's for dinner could be its own segment.
Yes.
I mean, it's one of those things that it's a conversation that we have every day, maybe multiple times a day, that we're not always in agreement on. It's an interesting thing. And for us, what's for dinner has legs. It is much deeper than that. So what's for dinner? Another one is where to go for vacation. And so often couples will not be in agreement around where they should go for vacation. And so for everything that I'm just kind of rattling off, it could be just that question itself, but it of course can be so much more. Do we take a vacation? But where do we go for vacation? You might be a beach person, and your husband or wife, the other person might be a mountain person. So then it becomes, okay, so where do we go?
Oh yeah, here's a big one too, like take family or go with family or go solo.
We agree on that one.
We are in agreement on that one.
Yeah. That is all we'll say. Football teams. Y'all. Some couples disagree on football teams.
I mean, is it that serious? Are y'all out there fighting about foot? You know what they are?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they have. I mean, they made a whole franchise off of a house divided and license plates, jersey, all kinds of things.
That's true.
Some people disagree about their favorite sports teams.
Yeah. And if you don't get it, you just don't get it. But that's the real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then let's get a little bit more serious. A lot of couples argue or disagree about where to go or whose family to visit for holidays.
Yeah. I can see what that would be a thing. Oh, and that actually ties into something else we really got to talk about in terms of this attachment to family, the attachment to family, or what it means to leave and cleave, so to speak, right? So a man will leave his father's mother and will become one with his wife, et cetera, et cetera. We'll be talking about that in more detail because I think that ties into that whole thing of where do we go when holidays come, which it can be kind of a challenge as you create this family. And then now all of a sudden, instead of you and your spouse, now you have like two families. And a lot of people have extended family off of that. And so it can become a chore. We've actually, had to kind of work through some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, with the pandemic that we've all weathered over the past year, that kind of helped a lot of people because they didn't have the option to do it. But this disagreement then was whether or not we do it despite the pandemic and isolation.
Oh, yeah.
So then couples were on two sides of whether we get around family or we don't, based on what the guidance is and whether or not the family's clear and did everybody get tested before we did it. There's so many arms and legs that go with that. So another one is disciplining the kids.
Yeah.
Whether or not you discipline the kids and how you discipline the kids is another one that many couples disagree on.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, people come up in very different ways and ideas about how they're going to discipline kids when the time comes. Some people want to, kind of discipline children in the way they were disciplined, the way they were raised. Yeah. And some people decide, you know what? Nah, that I didn't enjoy that, didn't like it, and I'm not going to do the same thing. And so you just never know. And then you marry someone who may or may not agree with what your parents did or what they're, it can be a complete and total mess. And so a lot of people struggle to come to some kind of agreement on that. Yeah.
I mean, and there's several things. So disciplining the kids is one, but whether or not you allow kids in your bed or in your bedroom, that's another one. Just how you're raising and rearing kids in general can be a point or place for of disagreement.
How you date. I mean, how you date, whether they date, when they date, who they date.
Oh yeah,
all that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's good. Where do we go or where do we go to church? That's another one.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of couples maybe differ on if they go at all and if you do go, where you go.
Hmm.
And that kind of goes back to even interfaith couples coming together. So
Yeah,
it may be that your observances are different, and so really requires some compromise on that. But that's another one that is a common disagreement.
for sure. So
Yeah.
there's like a lot we could go. Are we going on? How many?
Yeah, no, I mean, I
So
had that one, and then there's one more:
what's the other one?
how we spend money.
Yep.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we have something special for y'all on the whole finance thing coming up. I hope really soon.
Yeah.
We're working on a couple of things. But yes, so many ways to disagree. There are top ways. Then there's like your ways. So many ways, right? The question becomes, how do you do it, right?
Mm.
How do you do it, and are you doing it in a way that ultimately helps you to brings you out better on the other side,
Hmm.
that brings you out, still connected, still loving, etc. So back to my whole idea of
Yeah.
this, I think disagreement is necessary sometimes,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if you think it just like kind of, let's think about the universe, the cosmos, if we will, right? There, in order for anything to move or to get moving, it has to somehow, there has to be something else that's providing some resistance,
Uh,
right?
yes
Right?
and no.
No, that's no, that's just no, that's total yes. That is fact,
Yes
right?
and
You have
no.
to have. It's a physics thing. I'm not a physics person. There's like somebody knows about the law, but there's a law for it. Yeah, in order for anything
Hmm.
to move, something has to say potentially not move, or to provide some tension, right?
Hmm.
An opposing force, if you will. Like
Yes.
even when you're turning your car, like in order for a car to go down the road,
Hmm.
I would suggest that every part of that car is in agreement for that car to go forward, right? But when it's time to turn or exit or whatever, park, you actually cannot turn or park without some type of push, some type of resistance.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you just glide aimless. So, what does this all mean for marriage, right? I think that disagreement is necessary sometimes because no one has all the answers, right? And so if it's like, hey, we're never going to disagree. Well, then what if God has needs us over here, but we're here, right?
Mm.
Oftentimes that push is necessary. Wendy will say something that's not in agreement with what I said, right? And I'm like, no, it's mine. I like it. I think I like
That's
it.
exactly how that
Right.
happens.
So, but if you stay with it long enough, stop it.
Right.
Wait a minute. You want me to hit that
That
one more
was
time?
good because
Want
that's
me to
just
hit that
that's
one more
how it
time?
happens. Yeah, do it again.
That's it. It's
It's
mine. I
it's
like it.
just like that.
Right. And so it requires that she be there sometimes to maybe give me that little something that I'm not getting, that message from the Holy Spirit, maybe that I'm not getting, that something, that other perspective that nudges me in somewhat of a different direction.
Yeah.
Necessary.
Yeah,
Are you
but
that?
well, but you don't necessarily just acquiesce. You don't just say, "Okay, yeah, you're right," or "I'm open to seeing it that way," and you immediately just
Wait
come
a
over
minute.
to the
Well, I
other
mean,
side.
wait.
That
Well, you
doesn't
just
happen.
you just changing up the whole. I didn't say that I
Well,
was
but I'm just
that
adding
I'm like,
more
yeah.
to. No. But that's what I'm saying. I am extending the comment and the conversation
Like,
because the idea would be that if you learn how to disagree, that somehow you're able to navigate all of these things smoothly and with synergy, and there's no resistance, right? And
mm-hmm,
what you said though, that is that there needs to be a little resistance in order for
mm-hmm.
you to continue to move in the same direction and to grow.
Yeah, but I think that there could be resistance and synergy all at the same time. It's crazy. But
Yeah.
it's because it's part of the process,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And after that resistance, just like think about your tires turning, right? And people who drive in snow recognize this, right?
Hmm.
You can drive in snow, but you can't drive in ice. Why? Because snow gives you enough grip
Hmm.
where there's a little resistance to
Hmm.
get you in the direction that you want to go. With ice, there's nothing. Oh snap. Let's think about that for a second. Because when you're ice cold and you just shut down, hey, that you can't get any direction there, right? So, but a little bit of resistance is okay. That's all I'm saying. Bottom line, I'm taking my metaphors and analogies a little too far tonight.
So, a couple of comments out here. So, Lisa says the football thing is all in fun until the Cowboys win. I'm just gonna go ahead and take a sip of my drink on that one.
I don't even know.
Disciplining the children is a big one for us. That's Monica Wilson Ferguson, Ron Harvey, and Linda. Linda says, "Hey, this is Linda. When it comes to dinner during the week, I just cook the meal without asking. That's a way.
That's a way. Avoid the
Yes.
just eliminate the
That's good.
choices.
If you want to eat, you'll eat what's cooked.
Mhm.
That's good. Christina Janae, it's been too long. Good to see you. Glad you dropped in and hope school is going well for you. And so here we go. Right? We're not going to, I'm sorry. The football comment kind of took me back. Let me stay
And by
focused.
the way, y'all, this football thing for real, if you don't live down, if you're not in SEC territory, Southeastern Conference, you may not recognize the full gravity of this football thing. It ain't just for fun, people.
Oh my goodness.
That is all.
It is for fun. I mean, there are some people who don't even like football, but that was just one of them. That was just one of them.
Mhm.
Apprentice Smith says, great analogy. Go ahead and pull that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So but here's the thing. Beyond whatever the thing is, right? So those are things. And we could come up with a whole list. You could come up with your own list. Beyond the thing, there's really some premises that are rooted in why we disagree, right? There's some things that occur or reasons behind why we navigate disagreement the way that we do. It is often rooted in how we communicate. And I think you could say that, rooted in how we communicate, or the miscommunication of what it is that we're trying to say, how we're trying to say it, and how emphatically or how important we think our point is. And so a lot of people will say, well, do you want to be right, or do you want to have peace?
Well, I tend to say, do you want to be right, or do you want to be married? I will say that sometimes because I mean, I think because ultimately, are you winning if you're right? If someone acquiesces and says, yeah, okay, fine, you're right. I mean, are you winning? Is winning even the goal? And is winning an argument or winning a disagreement like winning in your marriage? Ponder that.
Is a disagreement, an argument, and a fight the same thing?
Is a disagreement, an argument, and a fight the same thing? I think it depends on who you ask. So we're asking y'all: is a disagreement, argument, fight? Is that all the same? And by the way, I'll just go ahead and I will simplify the choices. Right? No, actually, I won't simplify. Y'all go ahead, because there's one thing that I believe that it's pretty strong. I want to put my beliefs on y'all, but y'all go ahead and answer that. Put it in the chat.
Okay, so while you are typing that in or thinking about that, the other thing, and we've talked about this before too, is unmet expectations.
Okay.
So the root of disagreement, fight, argument, or whatever can be, one of the roots could be unmet or unspoken expectations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
That's all you have to say.
That's it. Yeah, because it's expectations. And let me translate. Okay, I thought, I want, I was gonna. Those are all expectation terms, like words.
Oh, I see.
Right. Oh yeah, I was gonna blank. I thought blank. Right. Those are all things that speak to some level of expectation that's been built. Right. Because I say it. I think it's a great idea. I think we should go with it. My expectation is that there's going to be agreement, right? Because I want it, hey, you should recognize that what I want is important.
Yeah.
And let's go, let's do it. Certainly you wouldn't disagree with that, right? Or because it's my mama, right? Then I expect you to get on board because, right?
Yeah.
All these things that people build expectations around. Some spoken, many not. So Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So Jay Sutton says maybe I need a couch for that analogy. Lisa McNeil says you can disagree without arguing or fighting, not the same thing, but one
Hmm.
can escalate to the next.
Hmm.
And I agree with that too. I think it's a good way to describe it.
Hmm.
But even in the words that we use, so on one side of the marriage, one person may say it was just a disagreement,
Hmm.
and the other person may say, no, we had a fight.
Yeah.
So even in that, giving language, I mean, creating our language and understanding how we communicate is so critical in a marriage in order for you to be moving in the same direction, in order for you to move forward from not being in agreement. And so what does it mean to be in agreement?
Um, can I speak on the whole fight argue
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
for just like the word fight is, I think it's very much a cultural thing because when I came up where I came up, in my family, whatever, fighting is fighting, right? I mean, if you say we fought, that means that we went to blows, we were swinging, right? So a lot of people when they say fight, what they mean what we would call an argument, right? We exchanged words that were unpleasant toward one another, right? And so some people call that a fight. So the semantics of things, very interesting how those
Hmm.
tend to differ. Um, let's just say, for the purposes of this conversation, that is we certainly, and all of us are in agreement that fighting with these in marriage, mm-mm, no sir, no ma'am, can't happen,
Right,
right?
right.
So, but even the words you use, and some people, like some of you now, you'll be patting yourself on the back, right? Like, hey, you know what? Look at me. I never put my hands on her, and
Or
yay,
him.
or him, and that
Hmm.
makes me, I'm good with that.
Hmm.
So just because you don't fight physically, it doesn't mean that it's over, right? That you check the box and you're good, because you can destroy someone with your words often more quickly than you can destroy them with your hands.
Hmm.
So whatever you call the words you exchange, recognize that you can do great damage with your words,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And I think that's why when we talk about emotions and responses, emotional responses,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, emotions are high when there's disagreement. Often when I believe I'm right about something and he also believes he's right about something, but we don't agree that we are both right, emotions can run high,
Mm-hmm.
and because emotions are high, it then causes us to maybe attack other things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Alprentice Smith says, amen, communication is key. Cultural norms and family traditions need to be brought out for discussion to gain understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Might not get to agreement, but understanding is a positive step. Thank you. Great point. Great point. And I think that, when we are able to be clear on our language
Mm-hmm.
and that we understand what we're talking about in our marriage, as you are in your marriage, that's the first step, being on the same sheet. So that miscommunication or
Yeah,
not communicating clearly with each other definitely can be the root of disagreement.
for sure.
And Gloria Hamilton says sometimes putting your mouth on a person is just as bad.
Sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we look at those things, it's kind of like, okay, am I meaning to hurt you with my words? Am I
Mm-hmm.
meaning to hurt you at all? That may not have been my intent, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I may have done it anyway.
Yeah.
And at this point, after, and it doesn't, I wouldn't say after 20 something years. I mean, it could be after 2 years. I know how to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about being in a marriage with someone. You know their vulnerability, you know what's going to hurt them. And if you then choose to kind of poke your finger in or deliberately and intentionally use your words to hurt them, then you're not fighting fair.
Yeah. And you're probably, dare I use this word, projecting, right? Putting something of your own hurt, your own damagedness, is that a word? Damage, your own brokenness,
Mm-hmm.
like you're attacking the wrong person, right? And sometimes you don't even recognize it. But I'm gonna take you out to Genesis, right? Right after God took the rib out of Adam and created Eve. Not long after that, what it says is they were naked and they were unafraid.
Mm-hmm.
certainly not afraid of each other. At that point, that was kind of this ideal point. Sin hadn't been introduced into the picture yet, right? And so you have this man, this woman there, they're naked, they're not afraid, they're totally vulnerable, and they are just there, right? There are many of us who can't be physically naked, much less emotionally naked around our spouse, right? We're afraid of what they might do with that information, what they might do with that vulnerability. And somehow marriage is supposed to be something different, right? And so taking that things that you know, the things that you kind of have over them and using those things, or instilling fear or doubt, like threatening, unfair bargaining, right? Those type things, those kind of rip at the very core of what marriage is, because at its core, marriage is supposed to be this thing where you are supposed to be naked and unafraid, vulnerable, not scared, not worrying about the fact that you know all of my flaws, the fact that you know all of my darkest, ugliest things, right? What I'm most afraid of, not fearing that you're going to use those things at a time in order to get a leg up or a hand up or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, but that's what happens, and it's not because we're inherently mean or inherently evil, which some people would say, but it's because when we're hurt, oftentimes being defensive is what we do. We're human, and so if something hurts us, then our response is to hurt back. And even if it's not intentional, it doesn't negate whether or not it occurred. And I think that's important because people will often say, well, I didn't mean to, or it wasn't that bad, or you shouldn't have taken it that way, or you blew this out of proportion. Those are all things that are said in defense of maybe saying something that may have come across as very hurtful. And so then we get into this exchange of, well, you hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you back, or you hurt me, so I'm going to shut down. And so some people get louder and some people shut down. Certainly there are other responses. Over here, one of us gets louder, one of us shuts down, and then we sometimes exchange
Yes,
in
we
that
do.
that behavior.
Get,
So,
get out my
so
seat.
it just depends on how we came into it. So Lisa says arguing has to have boundaries to protect the other person and the marriage. Words can't be unsaid.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And we do want to get to some things that you can do. So how do you disagree in a healthy way? What are some things that should occur, or ways for you to navigate disagreement? And that's one of them. So thanks, Lisa. Being direct, clear communication, not leaving anything unsaid is so important, because then for some of us, it may feel as if it's just unresolved, and it will linger. It'll just keep it. We'll take it from today to the next day to the next day to the next day, because not everything has been said or exchanged, or we have not reached agreement. And so the question is, when you have a disagreement, is the only possible or acceptable solution agreement?
No, agreement, it can't be the only acceptable solution, because there are going to be some times where we just don't. And so I believe that we don't necessarily have to agree on some things. Still, some things require action or direction or whatever. And so maybe there's not agreement, but the decision is that we have to do X, Y, and Z. We got to, we got to make a move. We got to not make a move. We got to do something. And so a decision has to be made. And so I think our apprentice put in there earlier, like reaching understanding, right? Okay, I know how you feel. I recognize, and I think before we tell people, hey, I know how you feel, do we do the real work of really understanding how they feel, stopping long enough to stop laying in our assumptions and our thoughts about what they think and why they think it, and allow that. Like, am I asking Wendy like where she's coming from? Really? Am I really checking in to understand where she's coming from? Can I make her argument for her? Right.
And that's good. And so you hit on two more things. So that first one was being direct, and making sure that you're communicating clearly, right?
Hmm.
Another thing is seeing the other person's perspective. So
Hmm.
having an open mind and being open to a different perspective, a perspective or point of view different from yours. And if you can slow down long enough to just kind of put yourself in a place where you are listening intently, which is the third one.
Hmm.
Listen, really, really listen to your husband or wife. And that leads into the next one, objecting too quickly. So try not to automatically object to what they're saying. So if you can pace yourself, slow down, and not automatically object. Then allow yourself to really listen to what they're saying and then try to see it from their perspective. Those are all ways that you are working to resolve your disagreement.
Hmm.
And so, those are
Yeah.
all things that, of course, these are recommendations. Can we all just kind of stop and say, okay, now I need to go back and I need to do step one, step two, step three?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens that way, sometimes it doesn't. You may just need to say, I'm going to do one thing differently.
Yeah.
So maybe it's all of these things, and there's a clear path for you to work your way out of your disagreement.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just one of them, one thing that you get hung up on every time that you need to change in order for you all to be able to move forward.
Hmm.
My question to you was, do you have to reach agreement in order
Hmm.
for you to resolve the disagreement?
Hmm.
And I think we really need to talk about that, because there are some people who say we cannot move on until we are in agreement, that
Hmm.
we have to be, you have to agree with me. We have to be in agreement. We have to be on one accord in order for us to move forward.
Hmm.
And I think that having that mindset and taking that position can cause deeper hurt, deeper miscommunication,
Yeah.
deeper resentment, and can lead to other things. It can
And
escalate it.
you can get stuck.
Yeah.
So a couple of things on that.
Mm-hmm.
First, how do you enter into disagreement? Like there are many scriptures that you could look to in terms of how you shape your mindset around disagreement,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Tonight I just give you Ephesians 4. This is 31. Is that 31?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, actually, this is a couple that are kind of mashed together, right? But let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. That's like cruelty, hatred, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. So I'm gonna stop right there, because disagreement, like the problem around disagreement, is often how we enter into it. These days, I must tell y'all, I'm working super hard to try to recognize shifts in the atmosphere, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And to hear my words. And so a lot of times I'll say something, and we talked about a lot of things over the years. And so I'll say something and I'll immediately notice that something shifts by when he's body language, whether or not she's in the room or not, facial expression,
Mm-hmm.
how she picks her phone up. There's all these little subtle things that change when everything is not perfect in paradise,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so if I don't immediately pick up on what I say when I say it, then I'm kind of going back, just because it's pretty immediate, and I'm kind of going back. Okay, like what happened in this moment? And I will often ask her what happened, but before I ask her, I have kind of reflected a bit on, like, because it's something I think I should just okay, that was, you were kind of short right there, right? That was not loving. It was not nice the way that you said that. And so if I know that, then I need to own that, because that is what throws us off. It's not the disagreement, it's how we get into it sometimes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Because and I appreciate that you do that. I have noticed that you make an effort, and it is challenging because often there may be several little things. So I may not automatically react to the first thing.
Mhm.
And I will allow things to build, as do many people. I stack. right? So it's the first thing, maybe it was a little thing, I can just blow that off. That's Mike being Mike. But then it's like the next thing. And I'm like, okay, so now I kind of got past the first thing. Now there's something else. Now I'm getting a little bit worn down. Then it's the next thing, and I'm like, okay, so now you're getting on my nerves. And so now that we have reached getting on my nerves, I can't pretend that I'm not being impacted by whatever it is. And that's not to say that it's the same thing that occurs over and over, but there could be multiple things.
Yeah,
One of the things that we've talked about is not allowing things to stack.
we talked
So
about
when
that.
when that first thing happens, to kind of talk about that first thing so that it doesn't stack and it doesn't escalate. We've talked about it, but I haven't mastered that yet. I'm just saying.
Wendy treats my infractions like punctuation errors on a bad English paper. She's just like, you know what?
See, now that's
I don't.
egregious because
I can't even.
I can't even read this.
It's like, you know what? It's too, I'm just gonna skip to the next page because I can't deal with all these.
I'm just
Let me
giving
just
it
give
back.
you your D. That's what
Just
that.
throw it away. You're right.
I know.
So that is so funny. That's kind of how it is. I cannot get past a misspelled word. So anyway, but I want to I want to talk about some of the comments that you dropped in because Gloria says, try not to disagree with your facial expressions before you actually hear them out, and that's important too. So even if you don't verbally readily object, sometimes it's just all over your face, and that really kind of speaks to what Mike was talking about. He can sense that there is a shift in the atmosphere, a shift in my behavior is really what it is, or my response to him. And here's the rest of that though. He can sense that there's a shift in my behavior or response to him, but that doesn't automatically mean that he's going to then be sensitive and examine himself.
This
Sometimes
is true.
what happens is he's like, whatever. Boom. I'm just gonna keep on with this because I'm right. That's how it happens. Like boom. Is that how it happens?
It can happen that way.
Yeah.
So I'm told. I heard.
Sometimes.
You know?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So here's what I know. It is not really my job to try to make him see what he's done. All I can do is own my stuff and talk about me. So another thing in kind of resolving your disagreement is to try not to blame the other person. It's real easy for me to say, it's because of the way you said it. It was because of what you said. It was because of blah, blah, blah. What you did caused me to be this way. It is your actions that have this expression on my face.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're trying to resolve disagreement, in addition to all those other things that we listed, try not to blame the other person. And so when you're owning your stuff, when you're talking and communicating using I statements, this is how I feel, this is what I did, this is what I'm responsible for, this is how I responded, it does change things a little bit, probably significantly from when you're saying, well, this is you.
Well, I think that changes things like in a meaningful way. Only when you're able to own what you own and then not flip it. Because a lot of times, some of y'all you'll do great. I know because I've been there, right? You're doing great at, hey, this is what happened, this is what I did, and I'm sorry, whatever. But you got to understand, and then boom, right? Then it's back to the accusing, it's back to the blaming, it's back to the ultimately. I say I'm not putting it on you, but I'm putting it on you. Mm-hmm. So a quick story because we're getting to our time here. Mm-hmm. Last summer we were in a season of disagreement. Is what I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
Last year it's so many things are going on, right? And so those things were going on before COVID ever hit, and a lot of stuff was around like the business, and like running a business with your spouse is a whole different. It's a different kind of ball game, right?
Yeah, we can talk about that one night,
right?
Again,
and we will. And so we come to this point where there's all these decisions to be made, financial decisions, company direction decisions, leadership decisions. It was just right. And and seriously, we're both at a point, and I was internal, Wendy's external with her. Is like, basically, I don't even know if I need to be doing this anymore. I can just, it'd be a whole lot easier to like just not even deal with this foolishness.
Is that what you said? That's
That's
what I
that's what you
said.
said. I'm
Oh yes.
paraphrasing.
Oh yeah, I quit
Yeah. And so and
multiple times.
multiple times. And so the tension is growing and growing and growing. And I'm like, okay. And so one day it hits me, right? And this is what happens. I'm like, I'm in a place, and then all of a sudden God is like, hey, something like that, I think. I don't really hear that audible A, but it's going right. And I said, okay, whenever there's a disagreement, the answer always boils down, like the real answer always boils down to the same thing: pray and wait. No, pray, own your part, shut your mouth, and wait. It always boils down, it always boils down to that, right? Because I think I'm right. I know I'm right. But ultimately, it doesn't even matter that I'm right. The question is, am I appropriately seeking God in where we go and what happens and our exchanges and all that, right? Am I doing that, or am I like just kind of firing off my opinion and wanting to get my way, and then like, oh yeah, let me pray about it after the fact, right? So this particular weekend, it's one of those long ones. Y'all have had them where, you have a conversation. You think it's going to be just a brief. We're going to get through this. We're going to squash this thing, but it does not want to be squashed. Nope. It's like a big old Georgia cockroach. They do not want to be squashed. It's like you hit it and they run. You got like, anyway, or a fly, right? Will not be squashed.
Yeah.
So pray on my part, shut my mouth. And that's what I did, right? But the problem was when Wendy started talking, she started responding, she was hitting all those like soft spots, all those trigger points. And I'm inside like, and I'm breathing, and but you can't breathe out loud, because then that's sending a message. You can't do that. That's sending a message, right? So I couldn't do that. But I'm just saying, stay with it, right? Don't unplug, because if you committed to not saying anything, a lot of times you just unplug.
Yeah.
And so check out. And it's just like, there's words, but I'm like, no, stay with it. You hear all of it. Listen. I'm like, and I prayed in the moment, God, help me to just stay here, right, in this conversation, and to hear this all, and to not take offense, and to not get angry, but to remember what I just said and own my part.
Yeah, it's getting good when the dogs leave the room.
The dogs, it was just like the birds stopped chirping. It was crazy. Right. But anyway, let me get to the point of this whole thing. As I waited, and the sun began to come up, literally, right? As Wendy started speaking, she started speaking the things that I had prayed for, the things that I prayed we resolve, the ideas I thought, the things that I thought may help us to kind of get to a better place. She spoke those things that I prayed.
Wow.
Serious. I kid you not. And so it was like three major things. And she just said, hey, I think bam, bam, bam. Just like that.
I always have a list.
It's always a list. It happened. And in this case, I kind of prayed a list. It was a short list though. But do y'all understand what I'm saying here? Right?
Yeah, that's powerful.
The Holy Spirit, everything that of consequence in my life, I've had to just give it to God and sit and just wait. And he just does it. And so, I could have like nitpicked all those points I thought she was wrong on, or things she didn't quite get right. And I would have totally thrown her off track from where she was going.
Yeah.
Pray, right? Own your part, shut your mouth, and wait.
Yeah. And if you're somebody who likes an acronym, I can take that and make it into an acronym. So, Jessica, thank you for capturing that. But I was listening to what you were saying. And so if you change it a little bit, when you have pray, right, then listen, then own your part and wait.
Well, I'm doing, first of all, I say shut your mouth because it's kind of like, it kind of reaches out. It kind of hits you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But that's life and death, right? Lie in the power of the tongue, the ability to do anything or to fail at anything, to lift someone up or crush them. It lies in the words that you speak, right? And so my thing is, pray, own it, right? And then silence, listen, because the very words that got you into trouble that you're trying to dig yourself out of are going to get you back, right? And so once you pray, you're giving it to God. Plowed for real?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That was the acronym.
You're welcome.
That's only if you listen, pray, listen, own your stuff, and wait.
Yeah.
Because plowing suggests that you are going to be able to get through, right? You're plowing your way through. And I think that there is just a lot that you can do with that. I mean, there's a whole lot wrapped up in what you shared. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, here's the truth. Just because we know better doesn't mean that we always do better.
That's right.
I mean, that's what they say: when you know better, do better. But it is a constant struggle, a constant effort. We have to be intentional about changing the narrative in our relationship, in our homes. What are you laughing?
No, I was like, some days I'm not plowing, I'm digging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, but so that'd be a good book. Oh, okay. Put that out there. So some of the things that we said: be direct, clearly communicate, talk. What did I say? No, I didn't do that one. Listen. I know now I'm like all over the place. You messed me up. Listen, try not to automatically object. Take a different perspective. What I didn't say was never say never or always. Saying never and always automatically can set some people off. If you say you never or you always, again, that comes back to owning it and using I statements.
Y'all been there because people will find the one exception, and now you're wrong.
Yeah. Pick your battles. Not everything requires that it get blown up into something huge. Not everything requires dissension and disagreement. Choose your battles. And that's not to say just roll over and just, say, okay, I'm just going to accept whatever it is. But at the same time, does everything require that level of intent or dissension or disagreement? And probably one of the most important things is to not show contempt. And so as you become angry and as these things happen and as your emotions get involved, making sure that you're staying in a place where you're not showing contempt, right? That you're not angered to the point where you talked about malice in the word, where you're not brought to wrath or easily angered. Really, really paying attention to that, because when you start to show contempt towards your spouse, I can't stand you. I can't stand to look at you. I can't stand to be around you. That, you are dampening my spirit. You are affecting me physically. You're affecting my health. That's contempt. When you get to that point, you are really, really digging a fast hole to really destroying your marriage. And there's really no other way to say that. Once you start to show contempt, and contempt is what you feel and believe in your heart, you're really heading towards dissolving your marriage. And our hope and prayer is that you're moving towards having a richer and a more rewarding marriage, right? That you're moving closer together instead of further apart. So I know I went down a whole list. I'm not going to go down that list again. And those are just some ways. What we challenge you to do is to have another conversation about how you have conversations, right? To talk about how to handle your disagreements. Lisa mentioned at the beginning that you have to have some boundaries around disagreements. Establish what those boundaries are. Come up with your own rules for how you're going to engage each other, right? Practice using I words and owning your own stuff and not blaming the other person. Try all those things, because at the root of it, if you love the way that God loves you, if you love each other as much as you want to love each other, then you should easily be able to do some things that keep love in the forefront of your marriage.
Yeah. And so, and excuse me, our apprentice, said, be humble, servant mindset, lose a disagreement to win the relationship. Ultimately, when all else fails, ask yourself if you have done that. Have you set your pride aside to say, you know what, this is not worth my relationship, and I will be wrong, or I will acquiesce. I will take a step back in order that this thing not destroy all of the great things that are possible in this relationship. So listen, I'm not gonna say that is hard to do, right? But I've done it, so whatever. Y'all can carry that somewhere else. I've done it, but no, but but seriously, that is it. It is pretty much that simple, because ultimately you're gonna run through your mind sometimes, and you're gonna go through all these steps, and you'll be like, "Yeah, I tried it, but you're not getting it." Have you tried putting it down? Have you tried sacrificing that moment?
That's good.
So
yeah,
with that,
I know we got to wrap this up, but there was one more thing that I think sometimes gets people stuck.
Yes.
And that's when we talk, because we talked about objections.
Okay.
If you object, what?
Nothing.
If you object, can you then offer a reason or an alternative? Right? So instead of just saying no, offering a reason or alternative sometimes gets people stuck, because it's like, where you're saying no, but why? Just like you said with food. If you say this is what you don't know what you want, but then I give you something, then your answer should not be no. So that was just another one. But yeah, so
well, I don't know about that one, but we'll come back at another time.
But Jessica says, does a marriage shop have, well, first, Christina Janae, this is really good. I love this topic because a lot of people don't know how to fight fair. You can disagree without arguing. Thank you for that. Fighting fair, it's an art, and it takes practice. Jessica says, does a marriage shop have a book coming out? All these topics would be great to have in one place to reference as needed. And so we actually do have a book coming out, but not necessarily addressing all these topics. Mike and I have been partnering to write a book over the last several months. We'll call it our COVID baby. And that book will be coming out very soon. And the title of the book is When. So we will let you know when is going to drop. But thank you for asking that. And Lynn Lou says, the tongue is lethal. Think before you leap. So we'll end on that note. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. If you think someone would benefit from what we shared, of course, tag them and let them know to follow us at the Marriage Shop.
That's it. Y'all, if we could, we're going to pray with y'all, and we're going to get on out of here. Heavenly Father, we just come tonight just thanking you. Thank you for how you bless us. Thanking you for allowing us to see this day. We ask that you bless everyone listening. Help us all, God, to just slow down, to hear your voice before we speak and hear our own, God. Be with us in everything we do, in our actions, our thoughts, and certainly how we treat each other. Bless everyone here, every couple, every married couple, every person that's going to be married, God. Be with them and help them to know that the way through any problem, through any conflict, is through you. And with you, we cannot fail, God. So we thank you for that. We love you. We praise you, and we trust you with everything. We pray these and all other blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, y'all.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's your boy, JC. I'm in the mood. Love. Yeah. Lately, I've been constantly thinking about you, babe. You drive me crazy. Yeah. And girl, I want it. Got me all up in my feelings. Oh, what a feeling, yeah. I knew the first time I laid eyes on you that you would be here forever. I'm not being arrogant, and I still can't take my eyes off you. 'Cause you made me better, so much better. I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime. I'm in the mood to love I love your confidence. Ooh, you're the finest. So glad you're mine, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't wanna be with nobody else. Give me your love, that's all the wealth I need. Baby, you're priceless to me, yeah. To love you for a lifetime, I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime, yeah, yeah, yeah. Promise I'ma be around, I'ma always hold you down. Won't you come and hold me now? Won't you come and hold me now? I just got no cool, yeah, I know I got a rule, but I always keep it down with you, yeah. And I know they see, girl, you're my queen. Beauty speaks for itself loud and clear, yeah.